Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the regular meeting, the first meeting of the new year, to order. I'd invite you to turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate, and then let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk Chris Reinhardt, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Councilmember Berg?
Here.
Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 38 on December 15th, 2020 as presented. Acknowledge November financial statement and payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. Authorize the renewal of Microsoft Exchange Online Plan 1 subscription license with a quantity of 120 users and Office 365 Plan G1 with a quantity of 25 users, totaling $6,934.30. Approve the purchase from CDWG for 13 Cradlepoint new cloud essentials for mobile routers LTE Advanced Pro for the Police Department, totaling $13,260. Approve the amended lease renewal with Pitney Bowes for a term of 60 months for a total of $21,352.80. Approve the rebuild of Flight Model 3171 pump from Electric Pump in Des Moines, Iowa for the quoted price of $5,822.75. Beer and/or liquor applications for La Guadalupana at 301 Church Street, El Rancho Grande at 232 East Main Street, Cedar Creek Golf Course at 13120 Angle Road, Hy-Vee Food Store Number 1 at 1025 North Quincy Avenue. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you. Item C, I'll need approval for tonight's agenda. Is there such a motion?
Move the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to call on City Administrator Phil Rath to give us some updates and information. So Phil, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Before I get to a couple items that are listed on the agenda, I just wanted to hit on something that has happened a little more recently since the agenda was put out, and that's in reference to the streets and snow removal. There's been quite a bit of activity on social media in regards to this, and I just want to say that we are fully aware. Our staff is actively out there to plow the streets. They have been and will continue to work 12-hour shifts round the clock. So that's 24 hours, but 12 hours on, and then another crew 12 hours. The day crew is clearing streets, and the night crew is performing snow pickup in the downtown and Church Street areas. So this is an ongoing thing. For those that aren't familiar with the process, we hit the emergency snow routes, medical areas first. That's kind of the primary. We hit the main, the snow routes and main streets. Then the second, we'll hit collector streets and arterial streets. Night crews will pull off about 4 a.m. and hit public lots so that places can stay open, the medical centers, the courthouse, etc. Residential streets will follow the business district openings and downtown snow pickup when needed. And then finally, alleys after a 6-inch snowfall or all others are completed. So there is a priority list there, and oftentimes it'll take several passes to clear a street. We had and I'm not looking to make any excuses or anything here, but we have 320 main lane miles of road in the city, another 57 miles of alley, and we had a pretty interesting snowfall event. We had about 8 hours of snow followed by several hours of rain and ice. And then a day later, or 2 days later, I guess, we had another about 6-8 hours of snow. So it has compounded the impact, but we are actively working to get the streets cleared as best as we can and as quickly as we can. So I just wanted to let the public know we are well aware and our crews are doing everything we can to get that done.
Thank you.
All right. Now that said, I will turn it over to Kayla and Anderson Larkin for the current audit.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In December, we were notified that we received the 2019 Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. So I was very happy about that announcement in December. And then also we finalized our audit in December, and I'm going to go ahead and just turn over to Mike Pliska from Anderson Larkin to give you a report on that.
All right, how are we doing tonight?
Good.
Okay, so you guys have the audit in front of you. I'm just gonna very quickly, I've got 3 or 4 points to make. By all means, if you have questions, please ask questions. I'm on page 1, which is the independent auditor's report. This letter kind of explains what we did, what rules we followed, and what conclusions we came to. First paragraph on page 1, we have audited the accompanying financial statements. Second paragraph talks about management's responsibilities. Although we put the numbers on the pages and put it in the order that you're looking at, ultimately the numbers that are in this audit report are on you guys. So it's your job to keep the books and records of the city. My job as the auditor is put them in the proper format and give you guys a report, okay? My other responsibility as an auditor is to give you an opinion. And the opinion is not that the city made money or you lost money or you're efficient or you really need to fix some things over here. But the opinion is, when we look at the numbers, is that an accurate picture of what actually happened? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth paragraph, based upon what I did, and I follow the rules set by the state of Iowa and the American Institute of CPAs and the Government Accounting Standards Board, and they all have a bunch of rules we have to follow as to how to do a city audit. And so based upon the rules that I followed and my experience working with you folks, I've been in town 27 years and we've been doing this audit every year since then. So I feel like I got a pretty good handle on what's going on at the city. But based upon that, I think I've done enough work to be able to give you this opinion that I talked about. Okay, so the last paragraph on page 1 says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly. Okay, so that present fairly, that's the opinion. There's 3 opinions out there. It's either we presented fairly, we didn't present fairly, or things are so bad I can't even tell. And so consequently, obviously, presented fairly is the audit opinion that we're looking for. Okay, page 4. This is just a comparison of fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 19. And I'm just going to point out that third column from the left, we've got at the end of June 30 of 2020, we've got $215 million worth of assets. We've got 73 million worth of liabilities, and we're left with a net position, which is assets minus liabilities of $129 million. And that's an increase of not quite $2 million from the year before. So typically, if we have an increase in net position, that signs that things are moving in the right direction. Okay. Page 5. Again, I've got a comparison of 2020 to 2019 revenues and expenses. For the year ended June of 2020, again, the third column from the left, I've got 46 million worth of revenues, 44 million worth of expenses, and what's left over is $1.8 million worth of net income or profit over loss. Okay. One of the things we do for the audit is to, if you guys have more than a certain amount of governmental federal grants, we have to do extra stuff, extra procedures. This is called a single audit. That cutoff for whether or not we do or don't is $750,000. A city of your size is almost always going to be over that amount. So I was just going to point out that for fiscal year 2020, the lucky program that we got to look at was there's a big airport project, $3 million plus in fiscal year 20. So that's the program that we looked at. I'm happy to say the things that I looked at and everything I asked for, I got. So everything looked good there. Okay. So I guess the bottom line is we gave you an unmodified opinion going back to the presents fairly, and nothing out of the ordinary as far as the grant work that we did. Okay. Any questions?
I don't hear any, Mike. Thank you very much. I do notice you said that was a clean, unmodified opinion, and also that we retained our A1 Moody's rating, which was important.
Yeah.
So
And for some of you that might be new on the council or not big on the financial things, this whole audit report is 150 pages long. Typically, an audit of a city, the audit report is about half that. And all of the extra stuff, which is basically in the back half of the audit, relates to being able to get that Moody's rating. So you guys have a bigger, thicker audit report because we do extra things, and Kayla and her gang does extra stuff to be able to keep the bond rating good so we can pay less interest. Okay? One of the things I always say is you guys pay us X amount of dollars to do the audit every year. Part of that is normal question and answer stuff. Kayla called this afternoon with the questions, okay? So you're not a week from now going to get a bill from us because we talked for 10 minutes on the phone. If you guys have questions over the course of the year and you think I can help you out, give me a call. And it's not going to cost you anything. If you want me to do 10 hours worth of research, we'll probably have to discuss that a little bit, but just normal question and answer stuff. I've been doing this 30 years, so I've seen a few things. All right?
Thank you.
Any questions?
I'd just make a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's good to see that the audit report that's available to the public is showing a net positive gain, and I think that that's a good testament to the finance crew that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do we need to accept the audit as presented and file it? Okay. Well, the record is that we have it.
Yeah, and Mike and I were actually talking earlier. We don't think that the audit has ever been presented to council. And so I wanted to make sure that it was presented, even though that it's always available. And tomorrow it will be posted on the website as well.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, Phil.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda was a review of the citizen request to reestablish a local human rights commission. And so I'm just going to look at my notes here. And I said, in 1982, a city code was amended that combined the Human Rights Commission with the Fair Housing Board and updated the code as pertains to the Human Rights Commission. Later in 2015, that city code was again amended to abolish the local Human Rights Commission and revise the complaint process by referring claims to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission or the state. During the recent planning process to update the comprehensive plan, our Ottumwa 2040 identified celebrating diversity as one of the 4 overarching goals for the next 20 years. Despite the call to celebrate diversity, the original draft of the planning document, I felt fell a little short on content. Prior to that final draft, staff and the mayor sought more input from various groups in the community, and one of the suggestions that came from those meetings was to reinstate a local Human Rights Commission. Following the adoption of the comprehensive plan, the mayor and I had a few follow-up meetings and continued to research the topic. In accordance, so based on that research, in accordance with Iowa Code, cities with a population equal or greater than 29,000 are required to establish and fund a local civil rights commission. The code does not prohibit smaller cities such as ours from establishing the same. However, there could be some limitations on enforcing local discriminatory ordinances against entities that might be exempt under the Iowa Civil Rights Act. So there Some things where if we were to move forward and reestablish a local and have local ordinances, if there was any conflict, may not be able to, or some entities might be exempt under that. So things to kind of keep in the back of our minds. From our research, it appears the commission was abolished due to reduced participation, members that were serving on the commission, and many of the complaints were being sent straight to the state commission in Des Moines. It does not equate, however, to a diminished need to promote equity and inclusion. The city, I feel, should be a leader in these efforts, and this is perhaps where an advisory commission could be an asset. A number of things identified where the group could help identify and address barriers within organizational systems, help attract and retain a talented workforce, skilled at working in an inclusive and respectful manner with one another and the community. 3, evaluate and create processes, policies, plans, practices, programs, and services that meet the diverse needs of those we serve. And 4, when needed, assist individuals and groups with filing complaints of unfair or discriminatory practices. So at this point, this isn't a recommendation or anything, but I just wanted to let the council and the community know we'll continue to pursue a model for the establishment of an advisory group or commission and encourage members of the city council to share any thoughts or suggestions on what they'd like to see moving forward. My initial thoughts would be to hold some public listening sessions and to build upon the comprehensive plan to identify individuals that as we have, the mayor and I have, that can help establish goals, objectives, and see what a body or entity would look like and how that would kind of hit some of those targets I had mentioned previously. I don't know if there's any questions.
I would just ask you a question or two, but Administrator Rath, I was on the council when the other was abolished or discontinued, and it was for the very reasons that you mentioned. But paramount, one of those was in fact that things that we wanted to be locally had to be handled at the state. So that was a factor, and I think you've addressed that. But further, as you establish this and research, I would hope that even though individually council would possibly give you some suggestions, that it would come back to the full council before we would act. And within that, I remember funding was always an issue, and so many of our boards are not funded. So how you handle that, as well as what types of direction that board or that advisory group would give to departments. Would it have to go through you? Would it have to go through council?
Yeah, and that's kind of if it wasn't exactly clear, initially at least, that's what I'm looking at, is something that can help with that advisory aspect. The code is there that we have right now, doesn't have a group specifically. We'd have to look at, and if it was by ordinance, would have to come back before council to handle any of those things. Initially, I was looking at more of an advisory group or commission, somebody that could help take a look at current policies, practices, whatever it might be, and offer suggestions. Any changes or revisions would still, depending on if it was a work rule versus something in our code or city code, depending where it would have to go. Some of those may still have to go to council. But having a group that could take a look from a different perspective, that sometimes in government we don't see the impact that some of our decisions have or make. There's some unintended consequences that might be forthcoming. And so to have a different lens when we're looking at those things is what I'm looking at.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
I would say I think moving towards some sort of advisory group, I think makes a lot of sense with how the state handles the actual complaint filing. And I think having a group that can assist with education and outreach is critical. I know a few months ago there was someone who didn't know how to file a complaint, and I just happened to see it to be able to tell them. But so I think a group who can help make sure that those resources are out there for our community members is really important component of what I could see doing.
Yeah.
through that group.
Yeah, education, advocacy, individuals that can be identified as resources for people that need to or think they may need to file complaints, or just have questions about if something is or who resources that they can find. There, initially, I really would like to stray away from us handling complaints on a local basis, because there's a lot of issues that either things that may or may not be covered, but also just best practices. I think if you have people that are specialized in that, it helps reduce the cost, but also makes it a better process in the end, I think. Now, having people locally that can assist and help people, I think at this point would be a way to go. If we grow into something and if we get above 29,000 in population, we're going to be having to do that. But I think we're in a better position, especially if we have the promotion, the education, the advocacy initially.
It seems like more towns of our size are doing more of that education and advocacy direction is what it seems like in the state of Iowa.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3.
All right. Number 3 was updating on the strategic planning action. This one is not as in-depth as the last 2 items. Simply, we had from the retreat in November, there were 16 action items or ongoing priorities that were identified. And then we had another 20, I think it was, new initiatives. So I'll be working on and continue working on with staff the action plan, highlighting those 16 ongoing things and where we're at and where we will continue to go, and then taking the top 4 or 5 as well of the new initiatives. For a reminder, those were creating the multi-year budgeting, capital planning, priority budgeting. That's almost an ongoing thing at this point. We're working on that with the current budget process. One that we'll have just in a moment here, improving cooperation with community partners, working with economic development partners, et cetera. We'll have something on the agenda here in a moment, kind of helping to facilitate that, establishing new revenues, and helping to grow out of our fiscal challenges. So I think we heard from the audit report, we're on the right direction, and we'll hope to continue to head that way.
Any questions for Phil? Okay, thank you, Phil. Item E in our agenda, if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address an item on the agenda, and I have one statement, is there anyone else wants to address? Would you fill out a card there and just give it to one of our staff, and we'll certainly recognize you at the time.
Here, fill that.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move to F, department recommendations. So Phil, I think you're taking this one.
All right. Okay.
Request to reject the sole proposal received from the fixed base operator services of the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Recommendation, reject the sole proposal received for the fixed base operator services at the Ottumwa Regional Airport and reissue a revised request for proposals.
Is there a motion?
Recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay, so we have, on October 27th, the City Council approved the issuance of a request for proposal, looking for a successful agreement for the fixed space operator at the airport. Several entities had expressed interest. However, we had only received a single proposal, and that one at the time, I believe, was looking at a cost of about $75,000 per month. That sound about right, Chris? Yeah. Which the airport board had rejected or recommended for rejection based off of that. Chris Cobbler and I have had conversations with some of the entities that had expressed interest but didn't submit the proposal. One of the big things that was identified was that the structure of the RFP, their current operations, the cost that it would be to provide those services didn't seem feasible as it was drafted. As a result, what we're looking at is reissuing a negotiable qualifications-based request for proposal. So that RFP identifies more of a general framework, some of the things that we're looking at, but doesn't lock anything in the scope of services. Looks at the qualifications of the various vendors and asks them to provide a scope of services that would be consistent with an airport of our size and encouraging growth and promotion of our airport. The final contract would be, and any associated costs would then be negotiated with the city and the vendor that would be selected.
Okay. Before we get into council questions, we do have two people who want to address the council, so let's take them in the order I received them. First one is from Skylar Black. Skylar, if you'd come up to the mic and identify yourself.
I am Skylar Black, 3117 Fleming Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, formerly of Ottumwa. Mr. Mayor, question for you before I start. I do have two different speeches, if you will, written. One is a little more in-depth, but I believe that with a new city administrator, with a new council member that was not around 5 years ago when all of this transpired, I believe it's important that
We'll give you 3 minutes to make your statement on whatever you choose to do. So it's free to you pick whatever you want to comment.
All right. I will begin. My name is Skylar Black. As you may be aware, my dad, Steve Black, had the FBO contract from 1984 to 2016 at the Ottumwa Airport. Tonight, the Ottumwa City Council has on its agenda to follow a recommendation to reject the sole bid it received for the RFP operating Ottumwa's airport. On February 2nd, 2016, Mayor Lazio, council members Dalby and Rowe, and at the time Strebe, voted in favor and supported the current operator, Archangel, owned by Tom Keck and Winger Mechanical. Now, 5 years later, here we are, Archangel wants out, and their contract expires next month. Over the last 49 to 55 years, the airport was operated by Midwest Aviation and Ottumwa Flying Service. Both of those operators were kicked out by the city. The two replacements lasted a total of 6 years. My family's business provided fuel, oil, maintenance, a full-time mechanic, hangar rental, flight instruction, 3 rental airplanes, charter service, and more. Archangel right now currently is providing a glorified gas station, as I said it would 5 years ago. They are also not providing a rental aircraft at the time. The current rental aircraft you can get at Ottumwa comes from the one man that put in an FBO proposal, Jeff Jorgensen, a fine man, but you have to go through a third party to even run an aircraft at Ottumwa. That's behind what Fairfield, Oskaloosa, even Bloomfield provides. So the city tonight is going to vote on watering down the RFP, looking back at scaling back what an FBO should provide in Ottumwa. If you want to have a regional airport in Ottumwa, you need to provide A to Z. You need to have the ice equipment. You need to have a Part 135 charter certificate. You need to have a full-time mechanic, a full-time flight instructor, at least 3 rental aircraft. We don't have that. We haven't had that in a number of years. It's really coming down to Ottumwa if it would rather have a gas station or a full-service airport. And if Ottumwa wants a full-service airport with the RFP that it sent out this last time with all the requirements, the sole bid you received, you are planning on rejecting. So what's the other solution? Are you going to water down the RFP, or do you plan on taking a city operation? Will the city take over the airport? Will that be a $700,000 taxpayer burden? How many more firefighters and police officers are you willing to cut off the payroll to make a full-service FBO happen for the city of Ottumwa? I'll be honest, I no longer live in Ottumwa, and I haven't since OFS closed back in 2016. But I still deeply care about the community. Both of my grandmothers still live here. One of my grandmothers is still a business owner on the south side. Finding a new FBO is hard, just as I told you it would be 5 years ago when you kicked us out. I'm here to say I told you so and to explain to your constituents that your decisions in one way or another will cost them money. I was the teacher, you guys were the students, and what have you learned these past 5 years? Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar. We also have a request from Jeff Jorgensen. Jeff, come on up and identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Jeff Jorgensen. Mr. Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for seeing me. I understand I have 3 minutes.
Yes,
Is that?
that's standard procedure.
I am the person who provided the sole proposal for the RFP. Again, my name is Jeff Jorgensen. I am a certified flight instructor. I've been a flight instructor for a little over 10 years. I've been flying for over 25 years. I did not know Skylar was going to be here, and I want to thank Skylar for being here. I think that's great. From Mr. Kavanaugh, I'm glad to see him here. And I love Ottumwa. You know, I've been flying in and out here for a long time, and it's a great FBO. In fact, I was a weather observer back when it used to be a different building, and a lot of stories. I want to see the FBO, and I express some of the same frustration that Skylar has, in that the Archangel services are basically, it's a gas station. Somebody put gas in an airplane, but they're not doing flight instructing. They've invited me to come down here, and obviously with 2020 and COVID-19, we faced a lot of challenges with all that, as everybody can understand. But I was trying to do, and I did do actually quite a bit of flight instruction down here, even considering that. And I was trying to work with Connor, Archangel, and find a way to work down here and make that work. And just so many challenges. But I want to encourage the city to consider accepting the proposal, because it was my understanding in the conversation with Mr. Cobbler and some of the city that it was a proposal, right? And so if some of the line items, the RFP to me seemed a little ambiguous. And so some of the line items in there were up for some interpretation. And even with a conversation with Chris, we weren't exactly sure, what we needed to provide, what was being asked for versus what we could actually do. And so I wanted to cover my bases, right? So in working with an insurance agent, I found the cost to properly insure the number of square footage of hangar facilities and the FBO and aircraft and equipment that would be on the field would be somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 just for the insurance to do that properly, which was, a concerning number. So when I put the numbers in the RFP, it was not a ploy to try to fleece the city for money. This was a responsible bid to try to make sure that I was providing the correct service as a professional to come in and do what the city was asking. And with that RFP, I also put line items in there. For instance, there was a request for charter service and flight instruction, and so I put a line item in there for the aircraft, right? So I didn't know if the city wanted to put that in as part of the FBO, and Chris and I had some conversations. He thought, well, no, probably not. They went in the RFP because, again, I wanted to be covered, but as a proposal, I was kind of led to believe that would be negotiable. We could actually sit down and negotiate some of those line items out if they didn't make sense for what the city was asking. So I love Ottumwa, I love the city, and I love aviation and the airport, and I really want to help. And so that's what I have tonight. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and sharing your opinion.
You're welcome.
Okay, council, at this point, there's a chance for you to ask Phil questions. Chris is here. You can ask Chris questions if you have any need for clarification.
Yeah, just say real quickly, the primary difference between the previous RFP and this one, I know it hits on what Mr. Jorgensen was saying, was this provides the vendor the opportunity to state a solution to what is needed at our airport to maintain the services. It basically says that, we list out a number of services we're looking for. So while these services are important to the city, ultimately we're looking for a vendor who shares the interests of the city in promoting, enhancing, and growing the airport as an asset. It gives it the opportunity for the vendor to discuss what service are provided, what that cost would be, and an opportunity to negotiate that once that vendor is selected. So it kind of serves a purpose as to what Mr. Jorgensen was maybe suggesting, and if the council sees it this way, would recommend that he definitely submit something and give us that opportunity.
And for council information, we did also have contact with another FBO operator, and he is also willing to submit some information to Phil and to the council for ideas of strengthening and making it clear, because I've said for a long time that contract is rather cumbersome and difficult to understand. None of us are experts in FBO operations, so I would strongly encourage you to consider the recommendation from Phil and then move into more of a negotiable stance with future. And we have a new attorney on staff too, who I think can look at this from a different point of view than past. So, comments, questions?
I got a couple of quick questions, Your Honor. First of all, just kind of a baseline question. What were we, once Archangel took over several years ago, what were we subsidizing and what have we subsidized the past 5 years to have Archangel run the services out there? I guess that'd be my first question.
Well, I think Chris, you want to make any comments, but my understanding is that the airport has been self-sufficient and we have not used tax dollars to operate. Now, you could argue that because Chris is a city employee, but he's not operating the FBO, so.
That's correct. The airport is got a budget of about a little over $400,000 a year. And we are self-sufficient at the airport. We use no city tax dollars to operate the airport. Okay. And so with the contract that was made out, there's things that the FBO pays the city to rent some of the facilities, but they get the rent from the hangars. Okay. So with that all being said, the FBO pays the city so many cents a gallon that is pumped from the fuel tanks. So we're basically not paying the FBO to be there. They're actually paying us to be there. Okay. And we make revenue from the FBO.
That's a good, that's kind of what I was getting at. And I kind of figured that was the case after reviewing, some of the finances. I guess I would just put out an opinion there. I think we put a lot of stock in the airport, made some investment with grants and grant matches and stuff. I guess we need to kind of maybe pull back, like you said, Phil, and figure out what we really need, and not so much of a what we want, combo platter. So we simply have to do what we can afford. And if we're going to have to, we talked earlier about possibly a small subsidy, in the best case scenario to get what we want. Keeping that as reduced or, as low as possible. But, I think we really have to question what we want from our airport. I don't think we can, continue to fund something too big for our needs. And I think, like you said, maybe, going back and resubmitting and having maybe them tell us what we need and what it would cost, and we can get a better view of what we can afford. And I think we need to stay within those parameters. So.
Absolutely.
Councilman Delby, I would make a comment too that currently on the airport advisory committee, we have 4 pilots. And I put a lot of faith in them because they fly all over the country and they certainly are giving us a lot more feedback than we had 5 years ago. And I think if we can sit down with them and with some current providers, Mr. Jorgensen or whoever else is interested, I think we can come up with a new approach and make this good for a provider and make it good for the city, because I think we have a common goal, and that's to make the airport much more attractive and a resource for economic development for the community.
If I may, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Chris, I know, Mr. Cobbler, later we have an item, an airport item to vote on later. And forgive me, but without going through my notes, I don't recall what the funding source was for that. So you mentioned that there are no tax dollars spent on the airport. So is that out of the airport fund?
That project that I'm going to talk about coming up,
Yes.
we got a grant from the Iowa DOT for $297,000 on that project.
Yes.
That project will have a total cost of around $350,000.
Yes.
So the $50-some thousand will come out of the airport fund balance.
Out of the airport, so not out,
Yes.
yeah.
Does not come out of tax dollars. It
I
comes
know-
out of the airport fund balance. That's why it's really extremely important for us to watch what goes out of that fund balance
Yes.
so that we can continue to be self-sufficient.
I'll
I'm
make
familiar,
another
in the past,
comment,
didn't
too.
we get 90%, and now it's 85% that we can get from those grants?
The state is 85-15.
85,
Correct.
15.
Federal is 90-10.
Okay.
When we-
And-
Yeah.
All right, and then I'd like to thank Skylar for bringing up some of the points, though, of what we've had in an FBO years ago, and then also Mr. Jorgensen, because I think Phil explained it the way I understood it. There was no question your proposal was a good proposal, but back to Mr. Dalby's point, now, though, based on that, could we pay that? Or do we go back to the drawing board and take a look at everything that's been discussed? Do we take a look at what we can afford and what we can really
Right.
resubmit it then, or, redo it?
The proposal, if you total it out for on an annual basis, was between $800,000 and $900,000. And we don't have the funds at the airport to be able to sustain that. We cannot do that.
I'll go a step further, and I think this is something that might come back to the council. As long as we're talking, and this is something that Christine will have to give us some direction on too as an attorney. I'm concerned that we have several fuel farms at the airport. And if you're talking about FBO operation, that's got to be centralized and handled by the city at some point. Otherwise, it's not a monetary benefit to the FBO operator.
Yeah.
And I think now that we have a new set of eyes and a new council, we can look at some of those things and maybe come up with some different approaches that were not available to us 5 years ago. So at this point, we have a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded to accept and reject the proposal and reissue a request for proposal. Are you ready to vote? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you. I think-
Approve a conflict of interest waiver for Allers and Cooney PC between the City of Ottumwa and Ottumwa Waterworks. Recommendation, approve a conflict of interest waiver for Allers and Cooney PC between the City of Ottumwa and Ottumwa Waterworks in order to draft a reimbursement agreement between the two partners.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
As I mentioned just a moment ago, talking about the retreat that was held on November 14th, one of the goals that we had was improving cooperation with our community partners. And I feel a key component for improved relationships is to have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. The city works with Ottumwa Waterworks at Hydro and a number of public works projects, some planned and others emergency. A structured reimbursement agreement between the two entities could help define expectations for planning projects, cost reimbursements for various services provided by each, and help improve the cooperation and communication. I contacted Attorney Stone to draft or assist with drafting such an agreement, and it was identified there was a potential conflict of interest because Allers and Cooney has done some work not only for the city as our attorney, but also for Water and Hydro. And the subsequent waiver was submitted for approval by both parties. So it's before you tonight. I have presented it to Mike Heffernan as well. He says he will have it on their agenda for later this month on the 19th. And I plan to attend that meeting to help explain to that group as well. I've had a few emails back and forth with Mike to kind of let him know this isn't a game of gotcha or nobody's doing anything wrong or pointing fingers. This is simply a way to improve our partnership and working efforts going forward. And so that's simply what I'm asking is the first step of the process, approve that waiver. And if they do the same, then we can have Attorney Stone help both parties work together to draft something that's going to be beneficial for each side.
Any questions for Phil? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the city thereunder.
Kayla, you're going to start this off?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is required, the public hearing for an authorization of the loan agreement and issuance of notes. We're asking council to take additional action on the matter of the authorization of the loan agreement not to exceed 3.5 million general obligation capital loan notes. This is for this specific amount is for refinancing and refunding certain outstanding indebtedness of the city, including the taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2011, dated back to October 19th, 2011. It was for essential corporate purposes, and that notice of the proposed action by the council to institute proceedings for the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of the notes had been published and provided by the sections 38.24A and 384.25 of the Code of Iowa. Principal and interest on the proposed loan agreement will be payable from the debt service fund. This is in addition to the other capital improvement bonds that we were issuing. We were waiting to see if it was going to be beneficial for us to refinance because of the interest rates. And at a minimum, this will save us about $200,000. The prior interest rates were anywhere between 2.7% to 4.4% on these bonds that were issued back in 2011. So this will take our total bond up to not to exceed just over $9 million.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this or raise questions, now is the time to step forward. Not seeing anybody, so if there's nobody that's going to, have you had any written comments, Chris?
I've received no objections on this
Okay.
item.
Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Matt and Bob.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Resolution number 1/2021, instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed 3.5 million general obligation capital loan notes, ECP-4. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 1/2021.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Any questions for Kayla?
Your Honor, I have no questions. I would just make send out a quick thank you, Kayla. It's nice to see the listing of the items that these bonds will be going toward. That's good for public and good for, us as a council just to review that. So thank you for putting that in there. That hasn't been done, I don't think, before.
You're welcome.
Also, Kayla, thank you. Earlier, you explained to me, so we'll redo these bonds and save the 200,000, but that is part of the later 9.05.
Right, the preliminary statement later in the meeting, yes, this is included in that 9 million.
Thank you.
And just for the record, you've been working with Tim Oswald, and he's been very helpful to us.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. If there's no other questions, ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the apron improvements project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport.
Chris, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a public hearing on the proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the apron improvements project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. The plans and specifications for this project have been drafted by our airport consultants, Kirk and Michael. Estimated cost for this project is $350,000. The airport received a grant from the Iowa DOT for $297,500 to pay for 85% of the project. The bids will be received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on January 28th, 2021 at 2 p.m. at City Hall at 105 East 3rd Street. Ottumwa, Iowa. The bid report and bid award recommendation will be presented to the City Council meeting on February 16th, 2021, or at a later date determined by the staff.
Okay. Since this is a public hearing, if there's anyone that wants to address this item, now's the time to step forward. Again, was there any written comment or any phone calls?
I received no objections.
Thank you. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Resolution number 5, 2021, approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the apron improvements project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 5, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions for Chris or staff?
Your Honor, I just have another quick comment. I know I keep interjecting those tonight, but I just want to extend a thank you to Chris Cobbler and the work he does at our airport. And, we got some challenges ahead, not just projects like these, but, an RFP process to go through. So I look forward to your guidance, you and the advisory board bringing us good recommendations. So thanks for all you do out there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And this was, I was at the Airport Advisory Committee, and they did support this recommendation too.
Correct.
If you're ready to vote, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Water Pollution Control Facility Effluent Diffuser Project.
This is a public hearing. Larry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The effluent diffuser consists of a 30-inch diameter manifold with 36-inch diffuser ports spread over 175 feet. Spreading the effluent over a wider area of the river decreases the concentration of the residual ammonia nitrogen in the immediate vicinity of the outfall, protecting the fish in the ecosystem. I do have a small video. I'll let it play as I read through the staff summary that kind of shows, and I had Edward start it where the dye, when we do a dye test, indicates, so you can see it's in the middle of the channel. We're able to increase our permit limits by doing this versus a shoreside discharge. The duct bills on the diffuser today are the original ones installed when the diffuser was built in 1995. The valves are in constant use and have reached the end of their useful life. They no longer spread the effluent flow uniformly across the length of the entire diffuser. Our IDNR discharge limits are tied to the efficient operation and directly impacts the available wastewater plant loadings. New duct bills are scheduled to arrive January 25th. 21. These valves have 1-year warranty, but we expect that they'll last 20 to 25 years like the last set. Funding will be from Water Pollution Maintenance and Repair Fund. Because the diffuser is shared with JBS, they have agreed to pay 1/3 of the maintenance and installation costs. Bids will be received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on January 27th, 21 at 2 p.m. Bid report and bid award recommendations will be presented to the City Council on February 2nd or at a later date as determined by staff. As you can see, as the dye makes its way across the river, you can see additional ports become active. In the very beginning or the right side of your screen, you can see a couple gaps. What we currently have is a couple of the duct bills off, which allows a higher discharge and also reduces the spread across the river. One of the things that we had done was work with DNR to set 2 limits in our discharge for a 100-foot diffuser and then a 175. When we get the full diffuser working, which means cleaned, replaced, and then we also have in this project an Alt 1 bid, which is for cleaning the interior. We'll also have to figure out how we're going to handle cleaning in the shoaled-in area. On the left, there's 10 more diffusers, and here in a little bit, it skips a few, and they become active. When you're in the river, you can actually fill a discharge from those that are covered with sand. We'll have to expose them, and as part of the installation project, work through that. And again, it's tied directly to what we're limited. Our permit is reduced right now because only 100 foot is working for the width. So that, I just wanted to kind of give you a visual of how that works. It's hard to picture without something like this. And again, there's been a lot of requirements that's been implemented through the DNR, and they're fully understandable because people installed these and then they did no maintenance work from the mid-90s. So it makes sense in order for them to work correctly and receive the benefit they were designed. We need to do this. As you can see on the far left, you got a small discharge coming. And again, that's how we get full credit. Any questions on that? I just wanted to kind of give you an overall visual. We've talked about this several times. There'll be a couple other come through in order to complete this.
Larry, one thing, and boy, what a neat video, but did you also mention, because for those two have lasted since 95, but your people, wastewater people, don't they clean those or check it out a couple times a year?
We are now required to do a visual, an annual visual where we'll do a dye test. One of the things that was able to do is with our in-house drone pilot, take these videos and use those for confirmation. We've done it with different meters in the boat. You can also do some different types of measurement of this dye, which we did in our original UAA study some years ago. This is just a quick, dirty way to see what ports are working.
Yeah, but silting and such, you don't have to periodically go in and clean that area or clear the area? Or?
We're going to have to. Unfortunately, just the nature of a river channel, you have sandbars and stuff that migrate through different flood seasons. Right now, one happens to be right here. Usually each flood event, those kind of migrate down the river. We will have to do some sort of mechanical excavation. That's yet to be determined on the outside. The alternate bid item is for cleaning the interior. We started to do that with our own crews and our own equipment. What we discovered, we couldn't keep up because two of the ports were off. So that was 2 6-inch inlets. You couldn't keep up with the flow and use a vac truck to pull that out. When they're all on, we're going to evaluate the cost of the bid and determine at that time, do we award the cleaning portion or do we try to do it ourselves? That's the interior. The exterior will be a contracted item.
Okay, thank you. I'll reserve my comment for later. Any other questions for Larry on this? This is a public hearing. If there's anyone that wants to address this item. Hearing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 10, 2021, approving the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Water Pollution Control Facility Effluent Diffuser Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 10, 2021.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second. Thank you. Any questions for Larry? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing approving the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Marion Street Reconstruction Project.
This is a public hearing, so Larry, you have the floor.
Thank you. The project involves full width, full depth PCC reconstruction of Marion Street from 4th Street to North Court. The project includes replacing the existing sanitary sewer and adding storm system to separate the combined system. Marion Street has suffered extensive damage from water main breaks, and we are currently working with the cost share amount with Ottumwa Water and Hydro, and will finalize before the start of construction. Ottumwa Water has installed a new main from 4th to North Court, and then additional items and ADA handicap ramps will be installed, and sidewalk will be replaced where needed to allow for paving. Bids will be received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on January 27th, 2021 at 2 p.m. The bid report and bid award recommendation will be presented at the City Council meeting February 2nd, 2021, or later date determined by staff. Funding is $500,000 from lost and $300,000 from road use.
Public hearing again, if there's anyone that wants to address this item. Seeing none, no written comments.
No objections on
Okay.
this.
I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Resolution number 11, 2021, approving the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Marion Street reconstruction project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 11, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Any questions for Larry?
Larry, I was just wondering if you have an kind of time frame you think it'll take to complete the project. I know that requires a crystal ball with weather and things, but kind of, is there a ballpark on time?
I was trying to remember the working days we set in there. I'll get back with you. I can't remember which date we used or which.
I was just thinking, I know
Number.
there's, heavy parking concentrated on the road there,
This is going to be a very interesting project for residential access.
I was wondering if, we might be able to work with something nearby for some overnight parking or something like that, because it's obviously a really heavy lived on street on those. So just maybe something we can try to work on.
I'll send that out. I just can't recall the working days right now.
Okay. I figured, if we can give extra time to the people living on that street, might be better so they can make some long-term plans on that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Resolution number 2, 2021, approving the preliminary official statement not to exceed $9,010,000 of general obligation capital loan notes series 2021A. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 2, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Kayla, you have the floor.
Good evening again. This is to approve the preliminary official statement not to exceed $9,100,000 of general obligation capital loan notes. This series is called for us the 2021A. And again, earlier we had the public hearing for some refinancing. And at the last council meeting, it was approved hearing for some capital improvement projects that will be included in this. In conjunction with Piper Sandler, the city has caused a preliminary official statement to be prepared outlining the details of the proposed sale of the notes. Those details include information on the terms and conditions of bond sales, including purpose, security, features, and economic, financial, and any legal information applicable to this issue. This information is used for potential investors to evaluate the structure and credit quality of the transaction.
And this does include the 3.5
Yes, it does.
refinancing?
Yep.
Okay.
Essentially, at first we thought all of this was going to be about 9.5 million, but with interest rates and everything the way that they are, we've reduced that to not to exceed the 9,010,000.
So the reduction isn't necessarily project reduction, it's interest rate reduction.
Yep. And some other costs too that is our percentage based as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, I think it should be noted that we did do this in conjunction with our financial advisor, Piper Sandler, and we have had their support and help in doing this. Good.
Kayla, you again explained to me earlier, but so when I remember, we were talking maybe 6 million, maybe 7.2, maybe 8, that the reason for the almost 9.1 is the combination of all of those makes it a better deal. And then the other part of that is that's a maximum, but may not go that far.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And at the next council meeting, when we actually have the bond sale, I'm assuming, I don't know, Tim might be here from Piper. And so we'll have the actual figures for you at that point. And the other thing that I would like to mention too is some of these are paid off at different times too. So some of them might, be 5 years, some of them might be 8 years, something, so we have a schedule of of payments from different sources as well.
Okay. Any other questions for Kayla? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 3, 2021, approving the preliminary official statement not to exceed 1.4 million of taxable general obligation capital loan notes, Series 2021B. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 3, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Kayla.
Again, this is also a preliminary official statement. This is for the not to exceed 1.4 million on the taxable general obligation loan notes. So again, we've been working with Piper on this issuance as well, and we'll have our final figures for you at the next meeting when we have the sale of bonds.
Any questions for Kayla?
And just so we're clear, this is the combination of the two $700,000
Yes.
notes that we did last meeting?
That is correct.
Okay. Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 6, 2021, approving the remodel kitchen project at the Central Fire Station for a cost of $19,666. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 6, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Chief Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Basically, what this is we have original cabinets from the fire station was built in 1962, and there was a point now we can't hardly open them up. We've had people come up. Dwight Dolman's came up. Our city clerk has meetings up there, or our CA, Kayla, has meetings up there with the hazmat team, and they realized that maybe we need to do something different. So we went out and got a bid, and this is where we come to council tonight. I did find out during this process that there's a lot of the construction companies are not doing stuff because of COVID, and the ones that are doing it are absolutely smoked with business. So this is a one bid we got to where they sell the cabinets and they install them both.
Any questions for Tony?
I would like to mention that this funding is coming from a prior CIP issuance. We had done an issuance for a new roof at the Central Fire Station, and we had some funds left over. With those additional funds, we've replaced the LED lighting for efficiency purposes. We also have replaced, I believe it was a water heater.
The water heater at the South Fire Station.
Yep. And, done some other capital improvement items. So we have a little bit more than this $19,000 left over, and we do need to get that spent for arbitrage reasons.
Any questions for either Chief or Kayla?
I have a question, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
How many people did you send requests for bids to?
Skip, we've talked to many different companies about that, and that's when I found out the process we're in right now, where we've got companies that are really, really busy or really are just not doing nothing right now. I would guess probably 4 to 6 companies we got a hold of and contacted about sending a bid, and we received one bid for the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Resolution number 7, 2021, approving the purchase of a new fire apparatus for the Ottumwa Fire Department for a total cost of $550,850.52. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 7, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Chief, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. We came to council 2 or 3 months ago because we got a couple of fire trucks that were in not good condition. I talked to the council members. I talked to the city administrator, finance director, say, here's the situation. There's $750,000 set aside for a new fire truck. We got a committee of 4 to 6 guys on the fire department that did an outstanding job reducing the cost of this. So I mentioned at the time of the council meeting that if we get a demo fire truck, it's going to save the city a lot of money. So we're going to save $200,000 on getting the truck that we're looking at getting, which is a considerable amount of money to save. The truck we're going to buy is going to replace a truck that we purchased in 2005. The truck we bought then was $590,000. The truck we're going to want and get right now is $550,000. So it's $40,000 less from the truck it's going to replace 15 years ago. Not a lot of fire departments can say they've done that. And it's not me, it's our committee that went out and did all the work on this. Corey Benz did an outstanding job. Vince Wilcoxon, one of our assistant chiefs, he is in charge of the truck committee, and they've done a wonderful job going out and taking care of this business.
So just for clarification purposes, an apparatus is really a fire truck.
Well, I'll tell you, I got the actual contract in front of me, and in the contract, it doesn't say fire truck.
I know, but the general public wanted to know, and I said I would clarify that tonight.
Well, I'll tell you, Mayor, what the story is that, if you get a tanker, a tender, a ladder truck, a pumper truck, there's a whole bunch of different ones. So I just put apparatus to kind of simplify this.
Thank you.
But in the actual contract, it does not say fire truck, it says apparatus. So
Mayor, point of clarification though. Prior to the meeting, talking with Chief Miller, every time he referred to it as apparatus, and I would say truck. And just now in his presentation, he said truck 6 times and did not refer to it as an apparatus until the very end. It's a fire truck.
Okay. Any other questions for Tony?
I have a question, Your Honor.
Sure, go ahead.
So the original truck that we're replacing cost $590,000 15 years ago.
Yeah, 2005 is when that's a 2005 truck.
This one's $550 now. Are we foregoing any necessary things that the old truck had that the new one doesn't?
This truck, that's a great question, by the way. And when I said our truck committee went through this thing we took all the bells and whistles off this thing because we knew the cost, the financial cost. We knew that we needed the truck replaced soon. The plan is to receive this truck in 3 months. So we gave up some stuff that we probably didn't have to, but we did. But it's going to serve the community well. There's nothing on here that we're not going to get that we didn't have on it.
But so just to clarify though, the things that you're not getting are not going to compromise the safety of the community nor the firefighters. NFPA 1901 is the requirements for a fire truck. We went by NFPA 1901 standards. Okay. So everything this truck's going to have is by the standards that are provided through National Fire Protection Association. Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. This is going to lift the spirits at the fire station a lot. Thank you.
Resolution number 9, 2021, approving change order number 1 in the amount of $14,840.40 for the Milner Street Multi-Use Trail Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 9, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. You're up.
This project consists of a multi-use trail-safe route to school on Milner from Mary Street north to Richmond Avenue. The corridor has been identified as a connector route in the Ottumwa Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan to help connect the school system and the southern residential areas to the greater Ottumwa Park system. The project includes the installation of an 8 feet wide, 4,115 feet long, multi-use PCC trail sidewalk. The trail has been designed to current design standards, meeting all ADA requirements. Change order 1 adds 4 epoxy-coated rebar at $1.75 per pound, and this will prevent faulting of the panels and allow parks to remove the snow with small equipment. The original contract was $278,227. Change order 1 is for $14,840. New contract total is $293,067.40. The funding is a TAP grant at $301,735. The local match is being provided by Wapello County Trails.
Any questions for Larry? Okay, hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Thanks, Larry. Item J, if there's anybody that wants to address any city business, this is a chance for public input. It does not have to be on the agenda tonight. Seeing none, I'll move on to K, petitions and communications. Couple things I want to make the council aware of, and I think, again, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes that we don't take time to give our staff credit for, but I know Larry and Kevin and Zach have worked hard with Phil on the firm maps, the fact that we have our national flood program that we have to be getting up to date, and we had a letter from them, from FEMA, back in the summer of 2020, and there's a deadline, and I got a letter just this week, or this past week, saying that they had not received anything from us, and they were concerned about it, and so I took the letter to Phil, and he followed up on it. We now have a letter on file that we do have an approved plan by the DNR. I asked for that in writing because I said, people's memories and what you say on the telephone is one thing, but they have approved the plan, and you as a council, I think, passed the ordinance about 6 weeks ago. So we are going to be in good standing with the National Flood Insurance Program as of December 30th. So that letter will be in our files, and just important to follow through because that could have caused some real problems with downtown and with flood insurance for people. So that's taken care of. Secondly, we are going to be hosting a hotel investment meeting on January 21st at 5 o'clock at the Bridgeview Center. A list of people have been contacted and invitations have gone out. I would encourage the council, we'll have Katie put one of these in your box so that you're aware of it. But, it really is going to be important. We're going to try to raise approximately $1.8 million of private investment. It's not donation, it's investment, to do the Cobblestone Hotel on the curb side of Church Street, just south of the Freedom Rock and the flagpole. So we'll get some pictures for you and let you see that. But if you know of somebody you think that might be interested in investing, make Phil or me aware of that, and we'll certainly follow up on it. We also we're going to have a meeting this Thursday on broadband, and I think the community as a whole, this is an area that we've been talking about for a long time, and we need to get that pulled together. Legacy has offered to hire a consulting firm. It's called Smart Source of Des Moines, and they're going to be in charge of doing a community study. So if you have any thoughts or ideas or anything you want to be included in that, please let us know, and we'll work with them on that meeting. Then lastly, I think some time ago, I asked Chris to pull up. We did talk as a council, I think 2 years ago, about a code of conduct and a operating procedures for council meetings. And so I'd like to suggest that we put that on the agenda for the 19th, and I'll work with Phil on getting that to you guys and gals and give us some feedback. I think it's appropriate that we set a standard and hold ourselves accountable and do that in a very positive and open way. So we'll take care of that on the 19th. And I think that's it. Is there any comments from any council about any issue or things that we should be aware of?
I was just going to say, Mayor, for the broadband study, there's a survey out. I don't know if the city has shared it. It might be helpful to have it shared out on Facebook to make sure more people are seeing that to help provide guidance on that.
I do believe it has been shared, but we'll certainly encourage people to take it.
More eyes, more shares, the better.
Yeah.
Make sure people see it.
Any other comments?
Your Honor, I have a comment. Phil, I want to commend you on your explanation of the snow removal. I think you've done an excellent job with that. However, I would like to add a couple things to that. The type of storm that we had when we had the freezing below it, the plows do not dig down and get it clear off the streets. And I know this is what people are complaining about because I've got several calls and talked to people personally. You can't get that stuff off. And the guys will just have to keep going back and back and back. They'll eventually get it, but it takes a lot of time. Secondly, in the downtown area, in the 3 new blocks with the permeable bricks, you can't use sand or salt on those 3 blocks. The sand plugs the area between the bricks. The salt, which when it melts, the water runs down and waters the trees. It'll kill the trees. So you're kind of stuck there. So I've had a lot of people ask me why they don't put sand and salt downtown. That's because you can't. So I just thought I would add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. I think those are really good points. Any other business for the city, good of the city? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Berg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
6:50.